How's it going, everyone? Welcome to the 310 weekly trade review. As always, we're going to start first with the market this week. And we'll start the D1 and we'll start to zoom in a little bit more. So on the D1 chart, last week we closed with this bullish hammer on the 200, but didn't have a nice amount of follow through that really got anything going to the upside. Today, or this week, sorry, we got a gap down and go with some pretty strong selling, forming a little bit of a tail. And then you can see that we had some choppy range-bound trading. The market hasn't really gone anywhere since the close on the 10th. It's been kind of chopping around. Now, at this juncture, we knew that, look, the bounce has lasted the drop, has lasted quite a bit of time. We've covered a good bit of ground. And this last chunk of the move has been a little bit choppy. There's been a couple, we get a big drop, kind of compress for a bit, crack down, big drop. You can see here, big drop, compress, crack down, compress. So pretty orderly, steady selling here on the downside. Now I'm going to zoom into this M30 chart. You can see here's that gap and go down, very steady selling until the last hour or so of the day. On Tuesday, we had a smackdown, a bit of a bounce, and we can get short over here. On Thursday, this was kind of a choppy day, but there was a chance to maybe get short over here. Thursday, there was a chance to get short on this rejection through VWAP over here. On Friday, we could actually get a little bit long, although we had to be a little bit more careful. So I'm going to start with the trades I took this week. I took 6 trades this week, so a lot less than the prior week. Now, if you haven't seen my video on troubleshooting performance drops, then that just gives some context as to what's going on. But basically, I had pretty terrible 2 weeks of performance because, 1, I'd sized up, and 2, I was just trading against the market, right? So these last 2 weeks, 90% of my picks were long when the market was going down. And I was trading against the market. I was swimming upstream, making it a lot harder for myself just because I wanted to get ahead of the market, but this drop wasn't finished dropping. So there were some opportunities to get long here and there. I'm not saying you can't take any longs, but there are far more opportunities on the short side, far more breakdowns on the short side. And that ratio should have really looked something like, 100% short, 0% long, or 75% short, 25% long at the most. So that was a mistake I made, but I went back, I looked at the trades, I tried to figure out what was going wrong, and graded my performance, and I found out, hey, look, I am not syncing up with the market. I'm usually chasing cycles here, so I might get a good stock entry, but then the stock has dropped with the market, and then the market pulls back, and then I'm like, oh, shit, I didn't really time this well. So that's not how I like to trade. And this exercise is helpful because I've been thinking a lot this week about what is my style, right? There's a lot of different successful traders that are pros and even a lot of intermediate traders who trade differently. And they have the setup that works for them, and they know whether it's swing trading only, day trading only, a mix, right? What works for them. So the theme this week for me has been, what is my setup and when do I feel the most confident getting long? It's not when Pete feels comfortable getting long, or Dave, or Hari, or anyone else in the chat. It's when I feel that I'm most comfortable getting long. So with this positive affirmation in the way, I'm not really much of an affirmation person, to be honest, but I thought that was a pretty important insight, being confident in your own picks and your own entries. So let's start off this week. Now, I actually didn't take any trades the first 2 days. Been a busy week at work, so there were some days where I just didn't get a chance to trade, or maybe I came in the day a little bit later and, the move had already kind of happened. I didn't want to chase the move, so I'm here waiting on the sideline. So didn't trade every single day, but the first trade I took was on Wednesday. And let's go to SPY on Wednesday. So here's the context here. Here's the gap down and go on early Tuesday. There's a chance to get short probably over here, or probably the rejection through VWAP. It's not a bad place. And then when the low of the day starts to fail over here, this is also not a bad place to get short, because you can see that. I'm going to keep going back. I just want to call this out because I want to, this is the pattern that I'm looking for here, where I'm saying, oh, okay, hey, look, we bounced here, and this whole move, this was supposed to be our bounce. We were supposed to go up here and, try to break through VWAP, and we didn't. And you see that every green candle just gets completely smacked down, as I think all of these, everyone who bought at the 200 SMA, they are spooked and they're getting flushed out hard. So if I missed the entry very early in the day or somewhere over here, I probably would have entered on the clean break of that low of the day, and then you get a little bit of retest and it kind of holds back down. Oh yeah, you can add to those trades and ride them out. And then when you start to get this big deep drop, that's when I would start to take some gains. Yeah, and especially as soon as I see the first sign of life on this kind of selling climax here, I'm going to start to take gains and avoid that bit of the bounce. Next day, because it was a big day, this is a day you have to be pretty passive. So I was here on the market. I missed this opportunity to short over here when I joined the day. I think I came in somewhere like over here, and I was like, look, it wasn't exactly on this candle, and I need that precision for myself. When I get all that precision, that's when I feel the most comfortable trading. So I didn't get that precision, so I skipped on this trade here. I skipped on this move down, but I didn't want to trade the long side because you can see that we made a new low of the day. I didn't know how long or strong this bounce is going to be. So I ended up not taking any trades on Tuesday. Now Wednesday opens up. We get this gap up, and it's looking pretty good until we're just kind of watching if this gap holds or fades, and then we get some tails over here. Try to get a little bounce, but it gets smacked down. We fill in this gap, and we start to go lower, form this tail, and then a decent little move higher here. This is some fairly organized buying in terms of many nice consecutive medium candles. Volume is average, a little bit of overlap, but nothing too bad. And we get this green candle here, and then we get an engulf at 12:45. So I'm coming today looking like this. I'm like, hey, look, we got a quick test of VWAP, decent engulf. Okay, I'd like to see us start to march higher and higher and higher. But I'm not going to go gung-ho about it. So if we don't march higher and higher and higher, I'm cool with that. I'll take the, I'll scratch out of the trade. So I took, first trade I took over here was GE. Let's look at this D1 chart. And it was kind of actually hard to find longs at this time of the week. A lot of them were just really beaten down. So my main search for looking for longs was like, hey, look, what's a stock that's, give me above the prior day high, give me above VWAP, and then just maybe holding above some SMAs. I'm not looking for anything crazy. A lot of stocks on this day were below their 8 EMA and their 8 VWAP. So I was okay if it was below the 8 VWAP, but I needed to see kind of some room between these levels. Some stocks were like right below their A VWAP E. So I was like, look, they're not bad, but, in this market, I want really clear skies, and I don't want to have any sort of overhead room when I'm taking these positions. So I like GE. Let's just look at this M. Actually, go to the M30 chart first. I know I don't always show this analysis, but it helps. But basically, I was like, hey, look, market down, right? GE down, and had a really strong bounce on the 7th. Didn't drop at all on the 10th. And then also kind of held and made some higher lows, higher highs over here on the 11th. And then today kind of broke this little compression to the upside. So on a shorter term basis, right, we had found some support earlier, and then we can start to get long. Okay, now let's look at this M5 chart. Did it go back too far? I did go back too far. Okay. So here's GE. In this first leg lower, market down considerably. GE doesn't even fill in the gap. Lots of choppy action here. Nice relative strength. The volume is okay, not super strong. Starts to find support and kind of gets a double bottom over here at 11.05. Here's the market at 11.05. So holds up really well. We get this nice rally. GE gets a nice rally to a new high of the day. Okay, looking good. We go up higher. We get this long red candle and then immediate engulf. And at this point, you could say, look, GE in the market, it's at the moment, it's kind of a little bit more flat, I would say, but I was leaning on the fact that it had a strong D1 chart, and on the M30 on a shorter term time frame, intermediate term time frame, it was pretty strong. And the fact that this move had some buyers in here. So I like that. It was also through the 50 SMA, which I think was a little bit lower at the time. So I like the setup on GE at breaking through that technical resistance. Okay, so take GE here, and then market comes in here, tests, forms a double bottom. I'm like, all right, look, this test is still okay, but now I want to see it start to move up higher. And then I take SPY long. I also take a SPY long here at 561.48. So yeah, take it right over here, which is not the best entry in my opinion. I should have taken it closer to support off here. This was chasing the move a little bit, so not the best entry by my standards. And then I actually scratch out of that SPY trade at 135 because I see a couple of tails and we don't get any continuation. So that's a SPY trade to scratch out of because one, I had a poor entry. I didn't want to go against me. If I was over here, I was willing to give it a little bit more time. But I knew that I needed to see some immediate confirmation or I had to get out of the trade. So I'm seeing that, and then on GE, I'm like, all right, look, we made a higher low at 105. All right, I'll take it. And then we got to see, I got to see it break through this high of the day. And then GE is like, hey, look, we're not able to get through this high of the day when the market is able to get through the high of the day at 125 and 130. Here's GE at 125, 130. Not able to get much going. So I ended up scratching GE at the close of this candle right here. I scratch it out. So I enter the stock at 197 flat, and then I scratch out of the stock at 196.90. So take a 10-cent loss. I was long, I think, like 35 shares with a stop. I think probably, let me check here. My well, in any case, I can probably speculate that at this point I had a $4 stop. So I had a pretty wide stop actually to the low of the day because we had the SMA, we had the gap, and we had a VWAP. So gave it a pretty wide stop on this, but yeah, didn't get the follow through. And I gave this stock pretty much an hour. I was like, hey, look, market I kind of got right here. Stock I kind of got right, but market not able to get that follow through I needed. GE not seeing the follow through I needed, so scratched out of both of those trades. Now, as soon as I scratched out of those trades, I'm like, all right, well, look, SPY, we had some heavy selling today. We had a big move up, forming a double top marginal new high, and now we're starting to see some tails and closing above the 8 EMA, starting to move back down. So I'm liking what I see here, and I'm starting to look on the short side. So on the short side, I see target. Let's look at this D1 chart first on target. So at the day of this, I had this earnings compress, and it was starting to break down to that compression, which it did on the 12th. There was also a low minus trend line, which let me see if I can draw that here. Yeah, low minus trend line that it also broke through the downside. Nice relative weakness, a lot of room, so really nice D1 chart. Let's take a look, and the M30 chart won't tell you anything too different. It just kind of shows the compression. And thus I know there's a little more legitimacy in the move. You can see that, hey, look, right, compress. We're testing this level, and you can see all the lower highs coming into play as every bounce gets smacked down, and then eventually we crack down lower. So on that crackdown, early, that's kind of when you can first get in the trade if you're very aggressive, but I prefer to trade the first pullback after that breakout. So here was target for the day. Really strong move, and then it actually formed a low at 11.20 when the market formed a low at 11.05. So it formed a low over here before the market started to rally. And then on the rally, you can see hit VWAP, got rejected, hit VWAP again, got rejected. So while SPY made a double top marginal new high above VWAP, target made a double top lower high below VWAP, and we got a nice rejection. We also had, this also provided a really nice opportunity on this low upward sloping trend line on the M5. So it broke over here. There was a nice opportunity to get short right at 150. I missed that. That was like probably the most pristine entry I could have taken, but instead I got short over here at 108. 108.74. I went day trade short, 135 shares, so I was willing to take a little bit more than $1. I said, all right, look, if it closes somewhere like 110-ish, I'm going to have to take that max loss on target. I wanted to get somewhere like at 109, but I was waiting for this candle to close. I didn't want it to turn into some sort of hammer. The other thing is like this signal bar was a really, really long bar at 155. So here's the market at 155. I prefer like another bar. If you could copy paste this 150 bar and put it here, that's what I would have really preferred, where we had a signal bar that just breaks through that low of the day. It's not too overextended, but came over here and I was like, all right, look, here is the setup on target. Really like this stock setup. Really like this market setup. Marginal new high, broke through this low of the day. We have a chance to potentially test the downside here. And we are close to resistance at the upside at around 561.30. So I like what I saw. Took target short over here, and then it broke through the low of the day quickly. And actually, while the market was rallying up, target was holding on pretty well. I added to the short another 135 shares on this breakdown of compression, which was added right at the close. So 107, I think it was like 107.76. I added to the trade here. So my average on target was now 108.27. So somewhere around here was my average on the trade. And this is while the market was moving up. Now, in hindsight, I think I was a little bit too aggressive with this ad. It's not a bad ad, but I added it over here. And I like this little compression break. So this is a pretty nice point to add. But I was like, we actually didn't see that immediate follow through, and market actually got back above VWAP. So I think stock wise, this was a good ad. Market wise, might have been a little bit aggressive. But in any case, here's probably the proudest moment of target. So stock ends up going up over here, comes against me. And then I'm like, hey, you know what, target holding up pretty well, coming back to retest this little low of the day, right? Which I expected. But now I have a double position that immediately went against me. So now I'm underwater on this trade a little bit, right? Just a little bit underwater. I see this candle. I'm like, oh, it's another tail, right? Oh, here's the market making another tail. But I don't panic out of the trade. I have confidence. I'm like, look, target's still pretty weak. Market's at resistance. This move, I didn't expect. I thought we'd see a stronger move down. So it tells me that buyers are engaged. I know that sellers are also engaged. So I'm going to try to take profits on the next little drop in both of these. So target ends up dropping. Actually, this is probably where I would have added on the trade if I wanted to add to the trade, because we had tested that support and now we were starting to roll over. And then I ended up taking the gains here at I took gains at 107.92. So it was a 35-cent win profit, but on a 2x size. So ended up being a decent win, because I took a small loss on this one, but I took a big win on this trade. And then market's kind of flatlining here, and target actually has a bigger drop down lower. And in hindsight, I was like, yeah, maybe I should have added, maybe I should have held. At this point, I was actually thinking that, maybe target is kind of in terms of the this low over here. But I didn't have any strong sense of market direction. I didn't have any strong sense of, I had a decent sense of stock direction, but not a good sense of market direction. So I played it a little bit safe, taking some profits here. You can see it had some pretty nice follow through. And I wouldn't have mind even taking profits on this test of VWAP over here at 315 and taking some gains over here into strength. And that would have been a nice extra, double on my current profits. But you can't say what is. I think overall it was a pretty good trade. And the most important thing I did was I timed the cycles really well. So I found here, look, market's up, but I know the trend is bearish. So waiting for this weak cycle. This is a weak cycle. Over here, when the market shows me some weakness, I can short the weak stock. And even though I would have gotten it wrong had I shorted SPY, I got a pretty nice winner that I could even add to when I shorted Target. So pretty nice win over there. Next day was Thursday. So Thursday, I come to the market a little bit later. I come in like 2 hours over here, and I missed this kind of rejection early in the day where we get a move down lower. We get a double top rejection from the prior day close, and we see some steady selling. So somewhere like over here, 1050, 11. That's a nice. This is a nice place to get short, I would say, on the assumption that we can crack through the low of the day. So I missed this opportunity to get short, and I joined somewhere here, and I'm like, you know what? We're in like meat grinder mode. I don't really want to chase this. I've been in meat grinder modes. I hate it because it's not quite bearish enough to be short, but every little bounce gets smacked down. So if you feel like you're gonna get long, smack down. Feel like you're gonna get long, smack down. So I had to wait for an actual bounce to get off the freaking deck, and then I could actually short that. So end up taking a late day short on TTD. Now TTD is one of the cleanest bearish charts you can find out there. I mean, it has just been sinking off since this earnings release. From this high, what is this high here? 141. It is down 50. It is at 53. So it's really selling off hard. And recently, you can see the selling pressure actually starting to accelerate over here. So I'd be careful if you're shorting this because there's a chance that the bottom falls out and then we get a pretty strong snapback. But I took TTD short. Here was the setup on the day. I was like, look, this is a weak trade. I'm only day trading it, so I'm not super worried. Let's take a look at the M30 chart. And you can see here is Thursday, and stock had a big drop, kind of had a bounce, but couldn't really get too far here. A little bit of support after that bounce, and then we cracked through that support really early in the day. So really what I'm watching for in the M30 chart is like if the prior day had a really strong move, right? I'm not as likely to get a great move the next day. Now, if the prior day kind of had a compression or a contra move, I'm more likely to get a better move today. So that's really what I watched the M30 chart for. But it's nothing you can't see on the D1 chart, right? You kind of see that here. We had a pause for a couple of days, right? Look, pause for a couple of days. We had a nice crackdown. Pause for a couple of days. Nice crackdown. Pause for 2 days. Crackdown. So nothing you can't see on the D1 chart, but I like to look at the M30 sometimes just to say, okay, here's kind of what was going on here. Okay, so here is TTD the whole day. Nice little gap down. Doesn't really market bounces. You can see the stock bounces to VWAP. So you can get a nice short somewhere, I don't know, looks like over here, maybe somewhere you can get short. We get a decent amount of follow through, and then a selling climax as we break through the downward sloping part of this channel. So you can take some gains into a deep drop like this over here when it starts to stall. But I missed that opportunity. So I'm like, all right, look, I'm just setting alerts on strong stocks, and I'm waiting for the market to show me some weakness. So I'm looking through a couple of stocks. I have like probably 20 shorts just tagged over here on the side because there was a lot of great picks, but they're all looking good here. I need to see what looked good on a bounce. So market bounce, stock bounced. If we look at the timing of this, let's look at 145. Okay, so it's synced up pretty well. The other thing then, so the first thing I look for is that did it bounce later than the market, and did it find resistance earlier than the market? So it bounced at the same time, 245. Yeah, it did find resistance earlier. You can see the high here was at 245. The high here actually came at 3 on SPY, and it started to sink down lower. This was also, if you look at this little compression low here, when it started to accelerate. So that was a little mini level that it came back and retested, back down. And we also had a nice little downward sloping trend line that got breached. So I like that. Nice and relatively weak. I took a short here at 55.06. I day traded short 150 shares. Now, it was pretty late in the day when I took this. It was 3:10. So I don't want to receive my welcome. I was like, look, if I can grab like 20 cents to the low of the day, I'm cool with that, right? I don't know if the market's going to test low of the day or not. I don't know how strong this move is going to be, but I'm just looking for a nice little quick win. So get some follow through in the market, and I get some follow through in TTD, and then I take gains over here at, let's see, 54.80. So it took a 26-cent profit, which was better than I expected. So it wasn't like a massive win, but was a decent little win on that stock. And the bottom ended up dropping out on this guy. So I was like, there's always a small part of you where like, man, maybe I should have held longer. But the one thing that can help here is that, yeah, you saw this move, but go back, fast forward in time over here, right? At this point, I'm feeling pretty good because I was like, hey, I took gains. This could be a double bottom. I don't know what's going to happen. Like I didn't have a strong sense of predictability on where this stock is going to go. And I think when I took gains here at 325. So I took gains over here on this move down. Now it could have a little bit more follow through, but last 30 minutes of the day, there's just more volatility. Be big moves, but the predictability kind of goes down. I didn't have a clear sense, so that's why I opted to take a small win. My real opportunity to trade the stock was probably earlier in the day off of this VWAP bounce. So that was TTD, but don't be kicking yourself on these moves too hard. That's what I remind myself, that there is a chance that this bounces here, and I needed to have like a 75% conviction that we would crack the low of the day and the market would keep going lower. And maybe I could have had that, right? Maybe I could have taken gains a couple of candles later. Maybe 345-ish. Hold that to the low of the day flush. But I didn't get it. So that was TTD. And then today, SPY here had a gap and go bullish trend day that kind of petered out. It got harder to trade in the second half of the day, I'd say. But the real opportunity to me was at 10:35, where we got this test of support and we started to break through VWAP. Quick pause there. Sorry, I got a call and I lost my train of thought. But I believe I was saying here that it was hard to trade there, and the real opportunity was at 10:35 after we got a couple of tails here confirming some support off the low of the day, and we get a nice little candle here through VWAP. The volume was pretty light, but the bid did hold up for most of the day. We just didn't quite get the punch through that we needed. So that was kind of the setup for today. Now, there was a couple of decent longs today. I was eyeing Okta earlier for a potential swing. GRRR had a nice little breakout, but ended up taking Master, MSTR. Let's look at the D1 chart. D1 is decent. It's not the absolute strongest chart, but what I did like is that there's a ton of support that's forming over here, broke through the gap, and it kind of rebounded pretty well versus SPY, and it's been gaining some relative strength ever since March 4th. It's been kind of forming a nice little base here. So I liked MSTR. It also broken through that AVWAP E earlier in the day, and so that was a level I was watching for. It also had filled in this gap from the 7th. Took a look at that M30. You should be able to kind of guess why I like that breakout immediately. We had moved down here, compress, right? We're just compressing right near this high, and then boom, we got to pop out. So I knew there's some good chance of continued follow through. So market was down earlier today. Stock kind of found some support, and then there was maybe a long you could take here, although it was relatively weak, but you can maybe take this long to AVWAP Q and take some gains into it. But kind of hard to trade. What I ended up taking was I went long right over here at 290.74, and here was the setup I saw in MSTR, and I liked it because it was breaking compression. It wasn't totally out of the gate yet. And here was the setup I saw in SPY. So we had pullback, and then let me just make sure this is sync 1235. When we go one more over 1240, yeah. So we got this hammer, but then we held. So I was like, all right, I like what I saw here. So not the strongest move, but let's see if we can attack this high of the day over here. I like the setup. I wanted both of these guys to break the high of the day. So I did day trade long 15 shares, about a $10 stop all the way. Let's see, 290. So yeah, it's like a clean break through VWAP over here. Might have been that's kind of what I would consider a loss. Market got to the high of the day and then just kind of stalled for a couple of candles. I saw a couple of tails here. MSTR got to the high of the day, kind of pulled back here, tested the support, and then was kind of just doing nothing. And at this point, like it's still bullish. It's not that it's not bullish, but I didn't have the strength to stick with longs in case this started to crack down and sell off. So I was like, hey, look, again, double top Mars new high. Be careful with longs. Let's just get out of this compression and see what happens. So I ended up scratching the trade over here at when I scratch out of this trade at 290.07. So took a tiny, like 60-cent loss, very, very tiny loss on MSTR, and I set some alerts to see if I could get back in on it later. So market ended up dipping down. That's a bad print. And then it started to find some support right over here, and that's when I took MSTR again because I got this candle. And now I'm like, hey, look, 230, right? Here's 230. I like SPY. If you draw a trend line right here, had broken through this trend line. MSTR, nice compression, right? You can see it's just chugging higher. Didn't drop hard, and then popped to the upside. So got back in over here at what did I get back in on? I believe it was 294. 294.64. I think that was it. Yeah, pretty much at the close of this candle. 294.64. So we got a little bit of follow through here, kind of just compressing, not really doing a whole lot. Market moving up higher, but also not really doing a whole lot. It's getting to that high of the day. So got a little retest or pushing up higher. I think I enter and I add to the position on this candle at 315. I add another 8 shares at 296 because we are kind of right at the high of the day here. And like, look, we formed a low here, broke through here. So we haven't been able to get knocked down too hard. And we have a decent chance of moving up higher. So I need to see some pretty strong breakout right here. So right here, right? I'm like, I need to see a breakout in the next 1 or 2 bars. Didn't get the breakout in the next 1 or 2 bars. Market started to inch lower. So I exited at the close of this 320 candle. So I took a 25-cent win on a 1.5x position. So very, very pretty much just a scratch, to be honest. So scratched it here. This is a tiny scratch loss. This was a tiny scratch win. I think I had a chance to maybe take like $1 on this. I'm debating whether I should have added on this or not. This wasn't a strong signal bar, but I liked how it held on pretty well over here. Came for the retest and pushed up higher, and that's why I added to the position. But I didn't see the follow through, so had to scratch on that. And then again, end of the day, we got a test and then a big pop over here. So, part of me is like, hey, look, well, I got in at 290. Oh, if I just held, I would have got to 297, and that's like a $7 gain on this stock. Yeah, but market is not giving us any leeway, right? And you have to think here, right? What do you think the market is going to do? Are you predicting a pop or are you not predicting a pop? And if you're not predicting a pop, you can't be kicking yourself for not predicting a pop here, right? What if the market cracked down two long red candles through VWAP, right? Now, instead of taking a scratch here, now I'm taking, I'm here, positions down 1.5x, and it's down, $5, $6, $7 on me. So, not worth the risk. I'm keeping the kind of the time stop tight here. This wasn't the strongest move I would have seen. I was looking for a stronger move somewhere to 299, 300-ish, which lined up with this AVWAP right over here, which didn't quite get. And that was it. So that was it for this week. 6 trades, pretty short, but positive week. Traded less. I had a better plan, better synced up overall with the market and the stocks. My only trade that I regret was my SPY trade because I didn't have the entry that I wanted to get. All the other ones, I had good entries, good synced up, and it just didn't manifest. So that's it for this week. I will be out of my usual setup next week, but I hope to get the video out on the trade reviews either Sunday or Monday. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I will catch you on the next video.